I'm Phil and this is Retro Rebellion. In this episode we're travelling back through time to the feudal kingdoms of the mid-90s when the Lords of the Realm titles set a template for modern strategy games. Let's examine the first two games in the series and see just how much of the modern genre we can find in them. When we go back to older games and try to master them, usually the obstacle is something about the presentation of information that wasn't ironed out yet by the design trends at the time of release. A clunky UI, too many confusing menus, mechanics that aren't explained properly. It's much rarer to find a classic game whose challenge comes from its depth. But here with Lords of the Realm 1 and 2, you've effectively got a turn-based grand strategy title with micromanagement and a macro world map conquering layer, and it's all laid out like it came out last week. Let's start with the first game, released in 1994. It all begins simply enough. Choosing a kingdom in medieval England or Germany, you select a name and a crest, and then a guided tutorial takes you through how to manage your small and humble kingdom consisting of a few towns. What's immediately clear is how effectively the medieval atmosphere washes over you. It's a very tranquil place to be. Those 16-bit flutes and drums are letting you know this is a game to be enjoyed at a leisurely pace over hours at a time, not minutes. Arriving in 1996, the sequel was a big jump forwards graphically, and it even featured an FMV intro to get you in the mood. A charmingly voiced assistant consistently refers to you by your rightful title.
"We have no rights of sovereignty in this county, my lord."
And although the 2D plane and limited visuals can't compete with what the genre has been able to conjure in more modern games, Lords of the Realm 2 works every pixel it's given to maximum effect, with attractively shaded maps, menus featuring little vignettes of life in your kingdom, and detailed character portraits that build personalities out of stats screens. Now, Sid Meier's Civilization had already changed the landscape in 1991, so gamers were used to the idea of taking control of a country and trying to grow it turn by accumulating gold and spending it on armies.
At your command!
What sets the Lords of the Realm games apart is the level of depth they revel in nearly immediately, letting you control things that Civilization's leaders wouldn't have to worry about. From exactly what your serfs are farming to what they're eating. It's even possible to impose extremely selective diets on them so that they're only consuming dairy. Think about that, an entire region of people in the era before underground sewage pipes living exclusively on dairy.
"All your people are fed by dairy, my lord."
There's a lot of information in the menus since you're given such granular control over your people, but the menus holding it all don't feel labyrinthine or overwhelming to navigate and read. Colour and size is used smartly here to break up what might otherwise feel like a lot to read at once. Watching soldiers walk across your recruitment screen is one of the most satisfying moments in the genre, full stop as far as I'm concerned, and if you need to make changes to how one of your towns operates, this series makes sure you can do it without reading reams of text. In fact, if you play modern grand strategy games, it's remarkable just how much you can apply the principles from them here. The ebb and flow from turn to turn is instantly recognisable, a little adjustment to production here, an economic tweak there, and there's a diplomatic layer. Once per turn you can send over a messenger to sweet talk nearby lords, and alliances can be formed with either outright flattery or recognition of a common enemy. Of course, it doesn't always work out with handshakes and smiles. In those situations when combat becomes inevitable, and they do arise, the battle system kicks in. This is where the two games differ the most, the first playing out pretty glacially slowly and not offering much detail in the fight, whereas the second feels like it has its eye on RTS games and their frenetic combat. When you do get a resolution to battles, whether it's a victory or defeat, you're treated to a cutscene depicting your deeds. It's the real-time battles where you can see just how far the 4X and grand strategy games have come since 1994, because there's no accounting for terrain, fatigue, flanking or morale here. But despite its relative simplicity, there's still plenty to think about, and victory isn't just about barreling in with a bigger army, although that certainly helps. Just like modern Total War games, each battle begins by scanning your environment, noting where the enemy troops are and figuring out the best way for each of your units to reach them. Selecting and moving units, along with actually navigating the map, feels very instinctive if you've got some hours with Shogun and the like. Neutral territories between those of you and your rival lords also have armies, and if you and a local enemy are both vying for the same patch of land, it's sometimes worth letting them get there first and engage the neutral troops. Win or lose, they'll have a weakened army afterwards for you to take on. Victory's about more than just territory or bragging rights. Amass enough resources and you'll be able to build your own custom designed castle, one of the most deeply enjoyable parts of the game. If the idea of being left in charge of medieval architectural plans leaves you feeling a bit daunted, there's always the presets to fall back on. But those who like to tinker can really take control of their creation here. A threequel and a fantasy spin-off, Lords of Magic, would follow, all of which are available today on Steam, individually or as part of the Rebellion Anthology bundle, which includes an enormous 44-game library. Our expectations for grand strategy and 4X games might have grown up a bit since its first release in 1994, but there's enough substance and atmosphere to these games that it's still a nourishing and fascinating experience more than 2 decades later.
Pikemen, ready!
Remember to subscribe to Rebellion for more like this every week and hit the like button to help us out and get this video seen by more people. Catch you later.
Alright! At your service! What now?